actually left out a very important field of study. I've overlooked psychical research. I mean, psychical research is such an underfunded and such a precious field. It's the search for ESP, or some kind of anomalous cognition. There are vast amounts of laboratory experiments in this country, leaving out Europe for a moment and other parts of the world, going from the 1930s up through the present day, that show evidence of precognition, evidence of some non-physical ability to glean information. And one of the tragedies of our time, and it will slow down our progress, but it won't stop it, is that so much uninformed skepticism and criticism has been leveled at psychical research that it's almost impossible to read about it accurately. When a journalist wants to write about psychical research, he or she will almost always write about it as a controversy, not a finding, a controversy. And when I say psychical research, I mean experiments that have traversed from guessing the images on cards to
remote viewing,
which is the ability to try to glean information.
The CIA gave SRI, Stanford Research Institute, money for 20 years to do remote viewing.
And it wasn't very much money, and the results were incredible. And unfortunately, Bill Clinton canceled that program in the mid-1990s. So now we don't have government-funded research. And it was very inexpensive.
And it was to keep up with the Russians, because the Russians had a huge psychical research project, and Hal Kodorf and Russell Tarr. And they had proven, people like Ingo Swann created the remote viewing.
There's extraordinary data out there that shows that we do possess some non-physical ability of gleaning information. And just to make this point quickly, when journalists write about this, and they will occasionally, they'll always write about it as a controversy. If there was recent research at Cornell into precognition that was covered not as a set of laboratory findings, but covered as a controversy, because when a journalist wants to learn about the background of this research, he or she will usually find sources that are produced from a polemical perspective, from people who are committed not to critiquing this research and discrediting it, but they actually don't want there to be a debate. And so there's such a division over this research, which is very inexpensive, very tantalizing, and has found things that have stood up to a great deal of scrutiny. So that's a whole other component. If we can amass data that shows there's a non-physical component to intelligence, whether it's somebody repeatedly getting above average hits on a deck of cards, or whether it's a remote viewer gaining reliable information about a physical object that he or she is distant from, or there were other experiments in the 1970s and 80s called the Gansfeld experiments, where one person was able to telepathically project a picture to another person. Again, the data on this, it sometimes will show just a few percentage points of deviation from guesswork, but over the course of tens of thousands of trials, if those few percentage points persist, then it shows that something beyond a chance occurrence is going on, and there is some non-physical component to the gathering of information. The implications are extraordinary.